Hello, everybody. Amy Sawyer, our associate curator, and myself, we have big smiles for you all behind these masks. We're here to give you a gallery tour of what were spring exhibitions. We'll be touring you through 5 exhibitions today. We're standing in the Pfefferman Gallery, and this is the Fiber 2020 show. We'll be splitting up so that we can take our masks off and really talk to you about the art. These are felted hats by Gene Hicks, and right behind me here are contemporary basket and sculptural forms by Dorothy McGinnis.
Danielle Morset of the Suquamish tribe is a contemporary Coast Salish weaver who is connecting to and renewing the time-honored techniques within the Coast Salish style, balancing the harmony between respecting her family legacy, honoring the knowledge of weaving from those who've taught her, and by embracing her own contemporary vision through color choices and through fashionable wearables.
This is one of 4 pieces by Kokirk Yamahira. I first met him when he was a special recognition award winner through the Betty Bowen award process at Seattle Art Museum. That was in 2017. I've been following his work ever since, including an exhibition he had at the Frye Art Museum. Most of the work you'll see in this show is additive, meaning you start with something and you keep adding to it. What he does is he applies a thin coat of paint to a stretched canvas that begins as a regular rectangular or square canvas, and then he slowly goes in and he removes the woven threads. He removes either the warp or the weft, and then he's able to make these deconstructed canvases. I think his work is very sophisticated and beautiful. He talks about when he's spending time doing these deconstructions, where his mind can go, and also about creating an intersection between 2-dimensional space and also 3-dimensional space and objects. These are very time-consuming, and he has a lot of time to think.
Cameron Ann Mason from Seattle, her piece titled Lichen from her Stone Mother series, which demonstrates her mastery in decoration and artistry in textiles. Cameron's techniques recognize what has been a part of so many cultural traditions by hand dyeing the cloth with her plant-based dyes. She draws lines in the sewing technique, enhancing the fabric into a flexible landscape. This reinforces the abstract concept of nature in her work.
We're standing next to Maria Phillips's Second Nature. When I first met Maria, she was doing metalsmithing, and it's been really fun to watch her journey as an artist expand to also include these narrative installations. A lot of Maria's recent work is about the environment, about consumerism, and humans' relationship to what's happening with the world, especially with climate change and pollution. This installation is comprised of the bottoms of to-go cups. When I first saw it being installed, it felt like I was looking at an array of oyster shells. But as you get closer and you realize what it's actually made of, that these are discarded, consumed products, then we begin to go where Maria really wants to take us.
From Vashon Island, Suzanne Hubbard, her large-scale weavings expand on the language of fiber arts medium in her work titled Always One Tree, which is one of 9 works in her series called The Background and the Foreground Are the Same. I love how Suzanne describes her weavings as a connection from the hand to the heart.
We're now going to take a very close look at the work of Betty Pascoe. Betty Pascoe is an elder with the Suquamish tribe. This headdress, called Representing a Crow, is based on a story that Betty told me. She had a very disconcerting experience with a whole flock of crows. She learned through that experience that these might be her spirit guides. So she's kept that story in her mind and heart. And then her husband, Dwayne Pascoe, has added the wood carving and paint. So they've made a wearable headdress that Betty can celebrate her spirit guides.
As co-curator, I recommended that this work be included by Lynn Rigby from Redmond, as it invites the viewer into a deeper discovery of fiber art through story. Lynn created this work titled Über Lebensgroß to communicate a larger-than-life story of strength and resilience in response to the Women's March on Washington. She wanted to portray the character Rapunzel from the classic Brothers Grimm fairy tale as a metaphor for all women by bringing to life the braid, which is made from 20 yards of silk fiber, representing a lifeline thrown out to help those in need, and the mixed fiber warp threads are carefully removed to leave behind the stronger weft threads as recognition that we are stronger together as there is strength in community.
We're now next to Marita Dingus's Buddy Miles piece. She lives in Auburn. We did feature her Big Girl piece. Many of you may remember the piece that had to do with non-recyclable plastics that hung just a few years ago in our 2-story Beacon window as part of the Beacon Gallery program. So this is one of 3 pieces that Marita has in the show, and it greets you right as you come into the Pfefferman Gallery. As a curator, it's really fun to discover, I don't want to say new talent, but talent that's new to me. And I've been following Jean Marie Terraccio from Port Townsend. She's been in exhibitions in Port Townsend at the Northwind Arts Center. I've also seen her in shows at Bainbridge Arts and Crafts. And it just seemed like this was a perfect exhibition, Fiber 2020, to include her. I also want to point out work by Jackie Mosley. Jackie's actually my neighbor. She never really told me she was an artist, but I discovered that when I went to Island Gallery here on Bainbridge, and she also has a few pieces in this exhibition. Gail Grinnell has 2 installations in Fiber 2020. There's the huge cyclone piece in the main part of the gallery, and then here at the top of the stairs in the Beacon Gallery, we have this untitled piece. She has taken a trashed old tarp and been very intrigued by how it's been unraveled and begun to decompose with the sun and the wind and the rain, and she's decided to take that further. This has a hint of the pattern of the cyclone fence that you'll see in her other piece, and also I just love how this it becomes figural and you become sort of wrapped in its essence. Barbara DePiro has created Kelp Forest. Barbara comes from Shelton, Washington, and a lot of her installation work, she has a number of other pieces in this show as well, but her installation work is narrative. This is an environmental piece. She has taken these plastic bottles, gallon-size jugs, and cut off the spout, cut off the handle, and then she takes strips from it and creates these spirals. This is about consumerism and what's happening to the earth, but she's wanting to present this with some life and some hope and have us think about not only where we are, but where we can also go. What's fun about co-curating a show this large is you end up with mini exhibitions within the larger exhibition. Carol Breyer Fowler Gentry lives in Port Townsend, and she's one of the best-known quilt makers in the country. You can see how masterful her work is. We're now in the Sherry Grover Gallery. Cynthia Sears, with assistance from Amy Goldthwaite, curated All Sorts, No Licorice. And this is a sampling of the artist books from Cynthia's large collection. Hunter has been working with Cynthia on a separate video to focus just on this exhibition. So I'm going to let you look for that on the website. Hello again. Ames and I are downstairs to greet you for the rest of the gallery tour. And we're in Peregrine O'Gormley's exhibition. And Peregrine is an artist from LaConner, Washington. So we're going to walk you through his first ever solo art museum exhibition.
And I just want to say that in the co-curation with Greg on this exhibition, I was particularly excited about Peregrine's work and seeing the progression.
Peregrine is very much grounded in nature and appreciation and devotion also to preserve it. He credits his father for instilling that in him at an early age, growing up in the Rockies before he even moved to the Pacific Northwest. He has a degree in biology. Although he's been an artist all of his life, he's begun his career really primarily as a wood carver. And he uses a lot of recycled, repurposed wood. He loves fallen wood. As his career developed further, he got a real interest in bronze work. With bronze, of course, you can make a limited edition, which means that more people can own your work. And he also is able to experiment with a variety of patinas and colors that aren't available with wood or wood grain. The piece in front of me is minus 25%, and this reflects not just his love of nature and the narrative in a lot of his work about the need to preserve it, but also begins to introduce his different styles. He's a realistic artist. He does wonderful representational work. You'll see some strong elements of cubism, and he also works abstraction. And sometimes the piece itself changes in those ways as you see it three-dimensionally. Most of his work is made to view in the round. Minus 25% was inspired by something that Peregrine read in 2008, that 25% of the world's wildlife had gone missing. Not every artwork of his is narrative in the specific way that there's a message, but this one, you'll notice that at the bone joint, that part of the wingspan here is missing. He's created this eagle and literally, visually, has removed 25% of the wingspan. This is another piece that's inspired by wildlife endangerment, climate change, etc. This piece is called Flight. It has a subtitle after Muybridge. Edward James Muybridge is the famous photographer who worked in motion studies. A lot of us are familiar with his series of still motion shots of the human figure, various animals. In this case, photographing an eagle opening its wings. And what I love is the shadows that are also cast in this exhibition with a lot of his work. But what Peregrine has done is he's taken this idea of a wingspan and then created the Earth. You can see that this is a conceptual globe form. Continents are placed in an array that's recognizable but not exactly realistic. But we understand what we're looking at when we see this combination of wing form turning into Mother Earth. This piece has been hand burned to create this blackened, what as you go around the show, you might think this is another patina treatment or paint on wood, but it's not. This is actually blackened deliberately to represent a scorched earth. And on my left, you will see behind me as you tour this exhibition, you'll see Peregrine's bronze version of the same piece, Flight, and his particular choice of patina on the piece that we selected for this exhibition.
This piece titled A Crack in Everything is another layer to the artist's profound connection to nature. This is a moment in nature where it looks as if life is springing forth out of death. Something new is happening and a new beginning. I think Peregrine captures that in a really incredible way.
This piece is titled Passenger, and in parentheses, my son asks me why. It's as if Peregrine's son is asking him, what's happened here? Why is this bird on a marble slab? The passenger pigeon went extinct, and there are stories in the United States about how the skies could be darkened. I mean, there were billions of passenger pigeons in America at one time, and then the population started to dwindle in the late 1800s. As habitat shrunk, and also they were considered kind of the vermin in the skies, and they would just be shot, and the population was decimated. Peregrine has carved this original wood sculpture, the bird, and then mounted it on this marble slab. It looks like a mortuary slab. And you'll see an old scientific, handwritten looking taxidermy tag, as if this really is a museum specimen. The bird is a separate piece on the slab, so we wanted to protect it and covered it in this glass vitrine. And we had some mixed feelings about how large this was, and the more Peregrine described the piece and what it really meant to him, the more we realized that this tomb-like glass-covered pedestal really served the purpose. We have 2 editions of Scythe in this exhibition. The one that's in our collection is over on the wall by the Beacon Gallery window with a different patina. It's a little more of a red-brown patina, and this is a darker brown, almost to black patina on this piece. Scythe, as we all know, is a farm tool. It's used to cut wheat. Another name for it is reaper. So Peregrine has taken the concept of reaper and done this piece about an owl coming out of the sky to get you, talking really about the moment where life ends, where death comes to get each one of us. But this isn't a scary, grim reaper narrative from Peregrine's point of view. It's really more of a friendly reminder that how important life is and that we all need to live literally for the moment and live the lives that we need to live.
This work, titled Meek by Peregrine, is another look at the evolution of his work as an artist. The backhoe he actually saw in a neighbor's truck. In the back of his truck, he was going to take a heap of scrap metal to the scrap metal yard, and Peregrine asked him to pull over and asked if he would sell him the backhoe for the price that he would get at the scrap yard.
Closing Time is the last piece that we're going to describe in this video of Peregrine O'Gormley's work. There's so much to see in this exhibition. Closing Time features a block of repurposed road with the center lane stripes painted. Peregrine reinforced the bottom of it with a compound and also some steel bars, so he would have a piece that was cohesive. This is an armadillo that is all curled up in a ball. And it's very interesting because this is literally placed in the center part of the road. It's not off to the side. The piece is very contemporary. I love, again, the combination. There's this abstractness about it. This piece from a distance, it does not look realistic because you don't really know what it is till you get much, much closer. There are some cubist elements, and as we pan in very, very closely, behind this curled up tail is an eye peeking out with these little claws.
It's been a great pleasure as Associate Curator to serve and selecting artists from our region and time, and expand our curatorial lens outside the institutional walls. Yet Anna Tyke is from Bainbridge, virtually in our backyard, and I've been following her work the last couple of years, just really interested in her approach to portraiture and a discussion on identity, as well as the affinity within the Fiber 2020 exhibition upstairs.
Hello, we are in the Bainbridge Island Studio Tour exhibition on the first floor of BIMA. It takes place in 2 galleries, the Steve and Harriet Davis Community Gallery and the adjacent John Kenyon Ellis Bistro Gallery. We are featuring artists from the Puget Sound region. Although it's called BI Studio Tour, they do feature, through a juried process, artists from around the region. We're going to give you a tour here and show you some of the eclectic, diverse, and wonderful examples of the kinds of art and craft made by these artists. I want to thank Dinah Satterwhite, the tour manager and board member, and also Marcia Peterson, who's a longtime exhibiting artist with this group, for their help in planning this exhibition, although Amy Sawyer and I did take responsibility for final selection of artists and artworks. Donna Lark from Port Townsend is one of the most prominent felt makers in America. I've known her work over the years through the American Craft Council shows, which happen in various cities nationally. Donna uses felt making techniques and is inspired by a long lineage of garment makers in her family from her great-grandfather to herself. Her work, which she describes as using Nuno felt making techniques, is quite a process. It's all handmade. I love that she allowed us to display this particular piece, even though it's a wearable, to really show how she creates pieces, combines all the colors with all of the materials, and this, of course, has such a beautiful landscape quality. Dinah Satterwhite is a fine art photographer, and she's really delved into various techniques in photography, especially combining digital capabilities. Her work ranges, maybe more than almost any other artist in this exhibition, ranges from realism to surrealism, from outright fine photography to highly manipulated pieces that kind of create their own worlds. We're featuring 2 series of work by Sydney Sterling from Indianola. The first are acrylic paintings, and she uses local inspirations, such as boats in her paintings. And there's lots in this area, of course, to be inspired by. The second series is a much more complicated process. Although these are technically 2-dimensional paintings, they're 3-dimensional in nature if you really understand what she's doing. She's using layers of modeling paste, charcoal, crayon, and other media like acrylic paint, gold and silver leaf, even photo transfer and collage. These are inspired by travels. I love the bicycle series, especially this piece called Recyclage. On the more abstract side of the fiber world, we have work by Michelle Johnson from Port Angeles. I love this piece, Tree Abstraction. There is so much to see in the show, and remember, these artists are working year-round, and they're doing commission work, selling from their websites, various galleries, including some that you can find in the BIMA store. So be sure to check out their websites and also the BI Studio Tour website.
That's the end of our tour. Thank you for joining us. And remember, there's always so much more to see.
We're very excited to see you again. In the meantime, please follow us online. Go to the BIMA website, join as a member, renew your membership. We'd love to see you soon.